Hello, and welcome to Rising with RLP. I'm Tammie, your host, the owner and founder of RLP Holistic Wellness, also a meditation coach, breathwork facilitator, self-love, and self-discovery speaker. And thanks for joining me for this podcast. This first season is We Are the Divine Femme. Because We Are the Divine Femme was the first online summit I did. And I feel that many people hold on to their stories, and their stories could help people. So take a moment, take a listen, sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Rising with RLP. I am your host, Tammie, and today I wanted to introduce you to Taylor Moon. Well, Taylor Marie, but you know, Sailor Moon. Okay, Gen X humor. A professional astro tarot reader with a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. Her work involves being centered on personal power, autonomy, liberation, and freedom. But let me tell you, she also helps people with learning that they can do it themselves. So, again, Taylor, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tammie. And that was beautiful, by the way. Thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I tried to make it a good one because, you know, you're new. You're new in my life. I want to make sure it's beautiful. But you guys, like Taylor, I really want to get into all the things that you do because this is not just the only thing. You're also an author.
Oh
Tell
my
us a
gosh.
bit about this.
Yes, I feel like I was an author before I even kind of knew that I was. In grad school, we had the option to write a master's thesis. And right off the bat, I was super excited to be able to do so. And the thesis itself only had to be like 20, 25 pages. Mine ended up being like 60, 70 pages because I did a qualitative study, which is much more descriptive. It's much more poetic in your scientific findings, which I loved. And I just couldn't stop writing, honestly. And I've always journaled, I've always written. I wrote a poetry book that's not published. I kind of wrote it for me, but I have written, large pieces of text before. And then when I moved, it kind of hit me where I was like, I should actually write like a book. Like I should write a full blown book. And I was also teaching at the time. So I was like, let me write about what I teach and let me write about my findings in the world of tarot. And then that's when I discovered the story of tarot. And I'm sure other people have, picked up on this before, but I noticed that each card linked to the next. And I wanted to express that. And I was like, what better way to express that than to write the story of tarot, write each tarot card's descriptions, but leading from one card to the next and telling a story through the major and minor arcana. So it has poetry, it has fluidity, it has flow, kind of like my thesis did. And I had no idea how to publish a book, but I just started writing and eventually it was finished and then it was published and here we are. So
That's so freaking sweet. That's awesome. I love that. That's really cool. Also, too, like now I want to get into Lilith. And this is why. Because if you guys get to follow Taylor on TikTok, let me tell you, Lilith is spicy. So tell us a little bit about Lilith.
So, I mean, Lilith herself, she is known as one of the first feminists. Her backstory, a lot of people know it, and this will be a very brief description, but her backstory is she was Adam's first wife in the Garden of Eden, but she was looked at as inferior or second to Adam, and it was a very oppressive situation to be in. And she did not appreciate the control that it was being perceived to have over her. So she left. Like she fled the Garden of Eden. She was demonized for it, but eventually became an icon of liberation and freedom. Just any control, any oppressive systems, any manipulative situation, possessive situation. Like she is, in my opinion, like the beacon of authenticity and what it means to liberate and free yourself. So that's her backstory. How she became a part of my business is that in astrology, there is a point in your chart called Black Moon Lilith, and this is where you experience liberation and freedom. But typically, first you experience guilt and shame because Lilith was guilted and shamed and is still guilted and shamed to this day in the story when she liberated and freed herself from the garden. So in astrology, my Black Moon Lilith is right on my ascendant. And your ascendant is in your first house of you, your personality, your physical body, how you assert yourself. And to have Lilith right on your ascendant, her energy is ingrained into who you are. So knowing my life and how I've always lived my life, to find out that I have Lilith right on my ascendant, I kind of just rolled with it after that.
I love that. Dude, I'm gonna have to get with you about this because I'm like, ooh, I want to see where mine's at. So, I talking a bit about Lilith and how she fits into your business.
Mhm.
In what ways would you say that you kind of feel that energy of freeing yourself and being authentic? So kind of like your Lilith moment. What was your Lilith moment?
Oh my, I feel like I've had quite a few Lilith moments upon reflection, and we were honestly talking a little bit about it earlier. I will say that my true Lilith moment and really stepping into Lilith was mostly very recently. However, there were definitely things leading up to it, and I'll keep each of them brief. But for example, and I talked about this in episode 29 of my podcast, Leaving High Control Groups. In the beginning, I talked about how in grad school, my supervisor was pretty abusive towards me, so much so that, my university found out and the Office of Mental Health found out. And they banned the supervisor from supervising interns like ever again and banned this internship site. And I was basically able to liberate and free myself from that situation and shine a light on the truth of that supervisor internship site. And now no other student is going to be sent there to endure the same abuse that I did, essentially. So I was able to see the truth. I was able to stand up for myself, uncover it, report it, and shine a light on it, and then protect future students from ever being sent there and enduring that. And then after that, I liberated and freed myself from a particularly abusive relationship that I was in, shined a light on that, moved, got a job, and then something very similar at that job. So just some sketchy things going on. I shined a light on it, liberated and freed myself. So there's this pattern of noticing injustice, noticing oppression, noticing lies and secrets and possessiveness over and over and over again, and needing the strength and the courage to get up and leave, just like how Lilith got up and left the Garden of Eden. And you need a certain level of authenticity and realness with yourself to be able to do that, because you need to be your only source of validation that that's the right thing to do. And recently I left a high control group, which that story ended up going viral on TikTok and going viral on social media platforms. And at this point, I already had Black Moon Taylor, which is my business based off of Black Moon Lilith. I've already been an established business for a while now. And I think this situation was the peak moment where people can really see without a doubt where Lilith plays out in my business, because this was a business move to liberate and free myself from this high control group was for the sake of my own sanity and my own self, my own wellness, but also for the sake of my business. So my business is a reflection of Lilith's work itself.
Wow. That is wow. That, like, I feel like the escaping, man, the getting away from it. So when it comes to, like, would you say that you're kind of like, a modern day Lilith?
I would say that I would consider myself to be a modern day Lilith, not the Lilith, because Lilith is Lilith in her own right, in her own respect. Like, she's her archetype. She's a badass. She has her own story. But when it comes to facilitating Lilith's story, purpose, teachings, vibe, energy, when really bringing that into the modern day world, I do feel that I embody that energy pretty significantly, whether I want to or not, whether I mean to or not. I just like cannot be contained. I cannot be put in a place and told what to do and told what to be and be trapped and controlled. Like I physically cannot do that. So I do consider my work to be the work of what a modern day Lilith would be.
See, I'm right there with you. I am not one that can be, I do not like the extra control, like where you find in different spaces, you find that where people want to control you. And
Mhm.
if you speak against or speak up, you're automatically turned into like this villain
Yeah.
because you say, "Hey, this doesn't fit right for me." And or you're like, you just don't know. I don't want to be a part of this kind of atmosphere. And so you find that people really step away from it. I think that's why we see a lot of, we do see a lot of gatekeeping in, the community and things like that. So right now, one thing that I do really would like to hear more of, and I think that maybe it was like a jokey joke, but like I really, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, you're writing a film? Is that what that is? Or like a skit? Or what are you doing with that?
For which I guess I want to say like which one? Like which project are you referring to? Because we
Ooh.
got we got a few things going on over here.
Oh, see, I love that. Well, one, I did see the one with Lilith, but then there was another one that you recently posted that had
Mhm.
that film vibe at the end of it.
Oh, the trailer looking thing. Yes, that was the trailer for my most recent podcast episode on my experience leaving a high control group, which whenever anyone's listening to this, this is episode 29. Right now, it's the latest episode, but it won't be in the future. But yeah, that was the trailer for it. And it was basically like the scary movie like template trailer that iMovie gives you. It's so basic. It's so easy. You open iMovie, you go to trailers, and it's like this template that you could fit in all these different things. And I wanted to promote the new episode because it's like relevant given recent things that have happened. And when I saw that this trailer was an option, I got a kick out of it. I thought it was so funny to put together this like horror film trailer to promote my thing. And I honestly made it for myself at first, just to laugh, just to have a good time, to find humor in the situation. And when I showed it to my partner's like, this is actually really good. You should post this. And I was like, you know what? Like, I agree with you. And I posted it honestly solely for entertainment and fun. And again, to promote the new episode. So that's what that was for. But I also, and I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but I did announce in that episode that Black Moon Taylor does have a project in the works to honor this historical event in our community and just the history of our community in general. So there's also that in the works as well.
That's where I was going with that. But I have to tell you and give you like total snaps and commend you for the very unique ways you put things together for like your next episode. So, you guys, like Taylor was saying, check out episode 29 of her podcast. Check out the whole podcast. Like, I'll be open. I have done some binging. I have done some binging, but I feel that different podcasts have a different vibe. And this is such, I feel like your vibe with this podcast is that standing in personal power.
Mhm.
Like that's what I get from when I look at when I see your videos or listen to your podcast or any of that, I feel like that's standing in your personal power and liberating yourself.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's also the podcast is called Liberated and Free. And I came up with that name because I noticed that the content that I was making, I actually didn't name it that until episode like 5, maybe. So I was getting in the groove of podcasting, even seeing if this is something that I would, do in the long term, which it has been amazing. But I noticed the content that I was making had a lot of vibes in terms of liberation and freedom. Like, owning your personal power and realizing that if you ever have to sacrifice your personal power, if you have to sacrifice your autonomy, you're not in a healthy situation, and that you should get out. You have every right to get out. And this is how you get out. This is how you liberate and free yourself without feeling guilt and shame and feeling empowered as a result. So once I realized that that was the overtone of my podcast, I was like, all right, liberated and free. That's the name.
And I love that because I know that's something that like we actually really kind of vibed on at the same thing of that we want to help people like liberate themselves. Like you have the liberate and free, and I'm like, Viva human revolution, getting that joy, that love, that excitement, but dealing with life on life's terms because life is gonna life, right?
Absolutely.
And people are totally going to be people. So
Mhm.
it's the reaction, the change of the reaction. Now, one thing that I was seeing is that I'm seeing that you're going to be in some different spaces. Not only well, really quickly, let me just throw this out there. I got to go to a meetup where Taylor was talking about astrology. Now, for many of us, we are very used to just like the basic stuff that you read in the newspaper. Or now we have apps. So now what the apps tell you. But Taylor opened my eyes and like sent me down this rabbit hole, which was amazing. I'm still in that rabbit hole. It's still awesome. Um, but Taylor, what got you into astrology? Because this is one of your biggest things that I see is the astro tarot.
Yes, yes. I don't think I've ever told this full story before on any podcast or any live or anything like that. But I was super young. I was super young when I first discovered astrology and tarot. I had to have been like 10 years old. And it was in a newspaper. I was going through a newspaper when I was young. I think I was just bored and I wanted something to do. And I saw the horoscope section and it was enticing. It pulled me in. I intuitively was drawn to it. And I remember when I was younger, I was drawing the zodiac symbols over and over and over again, trying to commit my hands to memory so I would know like how to draw them all. And I wanted to make a zodiacal wheel, and we called it a playroom at home. It was like our spare room where all of our toys were and stuff. And we would hang up our artwork on the walls, and I wanted to make a zodiacal wheel from hand drawn zodiac symbols. And when I found out that I was an Aries, I read about the qualities of Aries and it resonated a lot, even though it was just based off of my sun sign. I mean, I, soon learned that I have so many Aries placements, which makes sense as to why I would resonate with the archetype of Aries. But once I read about that, I was like, this is super cool. I love drawing it and it relates to me. No way. So I've always been into it since then, but it wasn't until college, grad school, and then after grad school, I really dove into more so the charts of astrology and realizing, oh my gosh, like there's more than a sun sign, there's a rising sign, there's a moon sign, there's all the planets involved. So it evolved over time after initially starting around like 10 years old.
Dude, that is cool. Like, that's really cool. So then I have a question.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, so we've got our sun, we've got our moon, we've got our rising. So we have all of these different things. But question from Tammie, because I'm not an astrologist, don't do astrology, but you do, and you can answer this. So what is the moon placement?
The
How would
moon.
you, yes. So like for me, my moon is Libra.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I'm a double fire sign though. I'm like, my sun is Sagittarius, my rising is Aries, but
Um,
I just don't get this moon. Tell me about the moon. Tell me about.
I got you, Tammie. I got you. So the moon sign is, I mean, right off the bat, any research you do on the moon, it's your emotions and it's your emotional center. So the moon does represent emotions because the moon represents our private life and things that we experience in private, under the surface, not secretly, but just things that are very personal to us. So the moon is a very personal, the moon represents our intuition. In our chart, the moon can represent the mother in some cases, or just motherhood or feminine energy. And the moon, overall, the way that I see it play out the most in astrology charts is where our emotional security lies. How do you feel emotionally secure in life, and what do you need? So, for example, for you, Tammie, having a Libra moon, and this is given only knowing what I know about your chart based off of what you just told me. Since you're an Aries rising, your seventh house is going to be Libra. So I know that your moon is in your seventh house. So the moon being in Libra about you is telling me that you find emotional security in harmonious situations. You want things to be harmonious. You want things to be balanced. You want peace in your relationships. You want relationships to be fair. You want things to be fair for people. And those are just some of the things that make you feel grounded and safe in a way, is having that harmony, having that balance, even having things of aesthetic, like things that like look nice because it's Libra. So Libra's, pretty in a way. So yeah, it's basically, long story short, your moon sign is how you feel emotionally safe and grounded.
Oh, wow. I'm like, how do you know me? Just from that. I'm like, dang, you know a little. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, that is it. Interview over. But let everybody know some of the spaces that they can find you because I'll be open, guys. Taylor is everywhere. She is everywhere.
You're not wrong.
Like you are in yeah, you're in a lot of spaces. Like,
I do a lot of different things in different places. I just be everywhere. But yeah, totally. I mean, one of the main places is TikTok. I'm Black Moon Taylor on TikTok. I post content there, educational content. I go live and do readings, answer questions. My website, blackmoontaylor.com, is where all of my classes are, is where all of my books are. I've also made some free resources for people. I have trusted resources on there. So many different, everything that you could possibly want to know about me is on my website. I'm on YouTube for my Liberated and Free podcast. I do these panels with Courtney from Tucked in Tarot on Meetup, where I hang out with you, Tammie. So I do a lot of those panels. Where else am I? I'm like drawing a blank, but I
are
think
you on IG? Are you on IG?
I am on Instagram. I'm actually recently active on Instagram again. I do a lot of Lilith photo shoots. So I post, that stuff there. Instagram is like my creative outlet where I'm not focused on really drawing much of like a following. It's more so like I'm just creatively expressing myself and having fun and writing short stories on there. So I do have like a creative Instagram that itself is Black Moon Taylor. I'm not huge on Facebook. You probably won't even find anything from me on Facebook, admittedly, or Twitter. I don't even have the app Twitter, but
Me neither. I'm like, Twitter? No, I don't know. I'm not doing it. And then like let's be awesome. Let's be honest about the book. Okay, so we'll be book. We'll call it book. The F book. Well, like, I'm learning personally from this app that it's like you got friends on there, you may have some
Mhm.
family on there, and nobody really looks at anything on there. Like people are on TikTok. Now, if I post a TikTok video, they're like, ooh, TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. TikTok's the thing right now. I mean, despite whatever's going on with it, but at least for me and my business and like a lot of people that I interact with, like I met, Laura and Courtney and you and stuff through means of TikTok mainly. So, that's definitely my main thing for sure.
I've been doing a lot of stuff. That's how it was for me as well. TikTok was the space, and I've started moving to different areas. Like, I've got journals as well on Amazon, but I moved like over with the podcast coming up on Amazon and like going over to even Snapchat. So maybe I'm old or something, but like I am still, I don't know, Snapchat and me are we're not friends. We're not besties. Are you on Snap? Are you on Snap?
Am I on Snap? I am on Snapchat, and it's more of like a personal than a business one. But yeah, when you added me, Tammie, I was like, oh hey, like we could be besties on Snap. Like, why not? I just try and keep my streaks with like my two people, and that's about it. But yeah, I'm on the Snap. I'm on the Snapchat these days.
I'm like, dude, after this will be like, hey girl, hey.
I know, right?
So, Taylor, I want to tell you thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you for being so open about the things that you have gone through, the things that you've moved forward through, broke through in life. And before we finish up, I want to tell everybody, hey, you can find Taylor, like she was telling you, on TikTok, on all of these different spaces. But make sure to check the notes in this podcast so you can get your hands on her link tree, which has everything, and on her website as well. Anything else that you've got for any positive words of inspiration, Taylor?
Absolutely. And for starters, before I get into that, I also just want to say thank you so much for having me, Tammie. I had so much fun. I love chatting with you. I love talking with you. And thank you for holding such a safe, welcoming, warm space for me and others to come on here and share their stories. Like, I just felt so comfortable with you that I could share. So I just want to thank you for creating that for not only me, but for our community. I think you're awesome. And I'm always here to support everything that you do. So I just wanted to say that. Oh, honestly, I will just say what it is that I live by. And it's like, you are someone who's worth going to war over. So go to war over yourself, protect yourself, and you're worthy, you have value, and there's never a reason to feel guilty or shameful for knowing that. There's nothing guilty and shameful about knowing that you have a right to take up space here. And if you ever find yourself sacrificing parts of yourself for the sake of anything, then liberate and free yourself. And that is what I have for you.
Dude, I like that. I like that. So, again, everyone, thank you for listening to us tonight. Have a beautiful, beautiful day or evening, and happy healing.